I think the way it works is that you place a func ladder, and it gets converted to a func symbol ladder when you compile the map. Because it's not like an entity that you can normally place.
Okay, we got Cfunc ladder, we got Cfunc simple ladder.
What is that black magic?
This is IDA. Dude, you gotta subscribe to my other YouTube channel where I got all my IDA tutorials.
I tried to open IDA to look at Left 4 Dead 2 stuff, and I got so lost. It's so lost. I didn't know how to.
Oh, you should use Ghidra. Ghidra's more easier. It's gonna be nicer. It has some nice stuff.
So, this is to read assembly, or like what?
Yeah, this is for.
It converts the binary into assembly that you can read.
Basically, and it does more than that too. This is like what people use if they have to do malware analysis or anything like that. They're using this exact program to like read stuff. So if you have the
really
Linux,
cool. I should know how to use this. I feel like it's important.
Well, it's important for hacking around in Left 4 Dead. It's not important anywhere outside of that. But if you've done like C++ classes and you kind of know like how C++ works low level, then like it'll make more sense. Because we're analyzing a C++ program. So you see like on the left side, all of these are like class names and methods and shit. So what does get dismount and get dismount count?
When you make something like Left 4 Dead hooks, do you use programs like IDA to figure out what are the addresses of the functions and stuff like that?
Yeah, we figure out where the functions are, what assembly they have, and what we want to patch or like detour or whatever. I think Left 4 Dead hooks and like the underlying D hooks can like detour entire functions just automatically, as long as you know like as the address essentially of the function. Which
the nav area.
This is knowledge that is so far beyond my current understanding. Like, it's okay. It's not that far, but it's like very,
very far.
A very, yeah. I don't know. Like,
all right. Well, you should download.
I've done assembly. I've done C++.
Here. You should go one.
Recognize all the register names.
If you want to do this stuff, I started a channel, Prodigy Sim Dev. Oh shit. How does YouTube work? Hello?
So that's where I went to try to find it, and I got exactly what you're getting right now. I tried to find this exact channel and could not.
Okay. Prodigy Sim Dev.
Nice search bar. Oh, there we go.
But look at the first result.
Analyzing Linux server binary in Ghidra, yeah.
Yeah, this I recommend. This video right here. I think it's got one dislike. No, it doesn't. I made this in October while we were still hacking away at the new update, and it tells you how to get Left 4 Dead 2 Linux server binaries and how to open them in Ghidra, which is a free version of IDA. That IDA has a free version, but it sucks ass. Do I teach you how to do anything useful in it? Not in this video.
Yeah. Okay.
But
are you planning to make something like useful out of this tutorial? Like not necessarily something that's gonna be.
Well, here's what else I have. I think I have more than one video. What? Why do I only have one video? Dude, I think I forgot to make my other videos public. I'm an idiot. But I have two other videos, or like one other videos. I have one I did a video of like finding Windows offsets, like to fix game data, because you know game data breaks every update or whatever. I did a video going through.
Yeah, that's super useful. Like the ladder thing, the game data was broken for a bit, and nobody had the know-how. It took someone from like Allied Modders to do it for us, I think.
Probably Silvers. But yeah, I tried to make a video tutorial of like how to find some of that stuff.
How did you learn this stuff?
One step at a time. All right, here's the real.
A lot of time.
Here's the real secret: is that Let's see. Let's find what's a simple thing. What's something that we know about? We know about like Versus, right?
Yeah. Versus, what do you mean?
We know about some Versus mode stuff. We're very familiar with how Versus mode works. There's like scoring, there's a special infected, there's all these things. So if I look at C Director Versus mode, you know, stuff in C Director Versus mode, that's like stuff that's special about Left 4 Dead 2 in Versus mode. And if I find something here that looks kind of interesting, like something that we care about, like scores, let me see if I can find anything like.
Maybe just.
This is one I like is, or get special respawn
Init
interval.
versus boss spawning.
Init versus boss spawning is a good one. It's also kind of complicated. I want to check out this one I haven't seen before. I've seen Init versus boss spawning a lot, but like get special respawn interval. Let's see if this is good.
No, the stream froze.
It'll come back.
I'm getting an ad because it refreshed.
I bought Twitch Turbo because I was tired of getting the ads again.
I think I'm about to. They're gonna.
Yeah.
Take my money.
It's expensive
think
though.
that's
It's
okay.
$10 a
I
month.
think, really?
It's $10.
That's
I think it's
insane.
$10 a month for like, and to not get ads on like people that I'm already throwing money at to watch a lot of the time. It's like, why can't I just not get ads on people? Oh, do you get ads on people you subscribe to? That Twitch extension is working.
Don't know.
Watch it with VLC.
So
I thought
anyway,
they
you
were
were
embedding
saying-
the ads into
You
the
think
video
this is
stream
just
now.
only AI special infected in versus mode? Because that CVAR is not the one that you use to lower response for players on this.
Yeah, this is probably pointless.
It's for AI special infected.
Oh yeah, this is
When
probably
the
for AI.
game's not full. Mhm.
Anyway, so this is a very simple, this is a very short function at least, and we can see some special names in it. One of the things that made this, but this is still a bunch of assembly, and like who wants,
So wait,
who
what
knows
are
what the
the?
fuck this is?
Hold on. Like, what are these boxes like? And these arrows, what do they mean?
Okay, let me switch to text view. This is, if I go into text view, this is
Oh.
actually like this raw disassembly.
Yeah,
This is just
I
straight the
understand
function.
this binary. Like,
So,
I understand this assembly.
If you're in
input
graph
form.
view, what it is it's every time there's like a jump instruction, it creates a branch, or like a conditional jump or something. It creates like a branch of like where it will go in code execution if it passes the condition, and where it will go if it fails the condition.
Okay, so it visually divides the assembly instructions into code blocks.
Yeah.
Basically, for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
So-
it's easier to read.
Yeah. So this. Yeah. So yeah. So you can kind of follow the code flow. It's checking has player controlled zombies up here, and then if it's true, it does one thing. If it's false, it does some other thing. Anyway, but the main thing I use here that like makes this way easier is I hit F5, and when I hit F5, because I have a special copy of IDA,
Dude, this is so cool.
I get a decompiled version that's like more C-like. So instead of looking at assembly now, I have, you know, V2, char V2 equals CTerror game rules has player controlled zombies.
Okay,
V2
we're
equals
getting
0.
somewhere. with
If V2, so if, and then I can go right here and I can do rename bar and I can say B has player
if player has
controlled
controlled zombies.
zombies.
Yeah.
Great. So if has player controlled zombies, then this thing, if I had L4D2 structs working, I could like, this is a CVAR, this is a convar struct. If I had it set up right, I could say it's like a
Okay.
convar struct. But I know this is what, you see this a lot, this is a CVAR name. This is what reading from a CVAR looks like every time in this. So it's reading the value of this CVAR and then setting that to A2.
That's so
then-
random. Like
yeah.
brackets 28 plus 44. That's so like what?
What that is saying is it's, yeah, it thinks this is a char. So this is 20, this is versus special respawn interval is some address in memory.
Yeah,
And then-
you're saying how much you want to read past that, right?
Yeah. And so I think it's reading 28 bytes into Sorry, this thing kind of like loses its position sometimes, and I'm in a completely different function now, and it's terrible. But yeah, it's like reading 28 bytes into this structure, and then dereferencing that. So there's like a pointer 28 bytes into the structure, and it dereferences that pointer, and then goes another 44 bytes. Or actually, since it's a D-word pointer, I think it goes 44 times 4 bytes. It's like, I forget what the C syntax is, but I think that's how C works, is it's like the multiples of the pointer type, and then going there. So it's like, there's like 2 pointer dereferences to get to the C bar value.
The actual code is probably much easier to read than this.
Right. And so if we do this, here, let me show you. If I go to init versus boss spawning, so this one is a lot bigger, and there's a lot, but there's a lot of CVAR reads, and they all look like that exact same thing, the 2844, 2844, 2844.
Yeah.
So it's like
kind of just abstract that to be like,
yeah,
just see or read rather than look at the numbers.
so another thing we have
References.
is I have a long-standing project that like some people have helped keep up a little bit. It's mostly kind of been static. That I've tried to figure out all the like structures in this game. So like if you come down here, there's these byte reads. So this, sorry, fuck, wow. All right, so C director versus mode, init versus boss spawning. It has one parameter, an integer, or it says it's an integer, but it's actually just, if you look on the left, this is a function that takes void. So the one parameter is actually like this pointer. You know, like you have this pointer. This is like a class method, so there should be a this object somewhere, right?
What?
You have
I am confused.
you have a pointer to your class instance.
Yeah.
So wait, this init versus boss spawning is a function that doesn't take any arguments, but when you decompile it, it says int a1.
Right. So when you have a class method,
It's a member function, right?
yeah. So when you have a class method in C++, what really that means is you always call a class method with like an object reference, right? You've got an object and you call a method on it.
You pass in this, yes.
Right.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So every like class method that uses member variables or something like that is going to have that pointer passed into it when it's called.
The address,
So
yeah, the address.
so
of
I
the
could
object.
rename this variable and call it this, and for it to make more sense to me.
Yes.
So now that I've renamed it this, I'm seeing there's a bunch of these variable accesses on this. I've got like this plus 56 bytes into C director versus mode. We're setting something to 0, and then we're calling some other method on C director versus mode. We're setting some other variable here. What are all those variables? Some of them probably have something to do with the tanks and the witch spawns, and that would be cool to know about. Like, wow, I wish there's a way to know about that. But so just over time, slowly looking through a bunch of this code, a lot of it helped by like methods that are, say, like get this or whatever. We have reverse engineered the data structures. Are you sure?
Do you have a way? Do you have a way to select a structure? Oh, but do you have a way to know which offset corresponds to what variable, other than just looking at the number here, or you'd have no labels?
We have no labels. Well, there's some tricks, like you've heard of like net props and stuff.
Net props.
Not
really.
Okay, well, there's some variables on these like classes, some variables on entities that like get sent over the network and like shared between like the client and server, and they'll have a name associated with those. So like some of that stuff will get like a name of like like M respawn timer, I don't know, or like MI sequence, which is like for animation.
iGlow type or B has player control.
Or like the move type. The move type is probably one under the hood. It's like a networking property.
This one, yeah.
And sometimes there's like traces of the names of those that you can find. I don't know what a good example is.
All right, so you were saying about the named labels, just the numbers.
So they're just numbers, but once you figure out what these things are, these offsets, you can go and do convert to struct pointer. And I've loaded up. I have a bunch of these that we've reverse engineered in the past, and you go.
That's so cool. So
C director versus mode, and now, bam.
Oh.
tank this round, Boolean 0 0. No witch or no tank.
That is sick.
That's useful.
It's
And
so
then
sick.
you go down here. Witch this now. Here they've decided there's a witch this round, and so they set it to 1. Witch spawn percent for this round is this variable, and that one's that variable, and yeah. So we take one bit of that, figuring out the variables, and then this thing's still ugly to read. And like for stuff we really care about, which we've done a couple of these. Icy, I don't know if you have the link for any of these available, but
So that
Versus
structure
possible.
table
I'm not sure if
mapping,
anything.
you saved that somewhere and you have to load it from a file or something, I'm guessing.
yeah,
It's like a,
I'll show it to you. It's on GitHub. It's the Alfred2 structs project. So there's a bunch of stuff here. We have like most of CTerra. We have a lot of CTerra player and stuff, but like
so it maps structures or whatever classes or whatever to, like, it maps their offset to named labels.
For that one.
yeah. Well, it's more like we define a C struct, and it just like based on the C structure, you know, a C structure has like one way to interpret it, and it's like, oh, at offset 0 will be the first variable. As long as you know the size of each of the variables, you know kind of how they map to memory. Yeah. And then IDA maps it up
Okay,
for
cool.
us.
You guys are insane.
This is forever ago. You know, I haven't had to do this for my day job, so I'm a little rusty, but it's fun. But yeah,
So you basically, those labels, those structures are inferred from the logic of the function implementations, right?
basically, unless we find, so like I said, some of them have labels. So like, if we go to like,
Yeah. The net stuff, they have labels.
maybe a set, if we find something being set.
This is nuts. I feel like I should learn this. I think it's cool, but it might not be as important in a day job or whatever.
Well, you know,
But
just like
it allows you to make cool stuff.
reverse engineering stuff and figuring out how it works, I think that's just like kind of core to debugging. It's like the skill of like having to figure out what somebody else's code does to figure out what's wrong is like valuable everywhere, and this is just like a harder version of that because it's in a new language we don't know.
We wouldn't have to do this if it was all open source, right? Like this is all because it's closed source and it's a binary they give you.
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, to some extent, we'd still have to figure out what the fuck they're doing. There is parts of like, we can look at like the
Yeah, more
HL2 SDK. We can look at the HL2 SDK, which is open source enough, and like some of the variables I actually got because like they're in like Alien Swarm or they're in like some
Yeah,
other
reactive
game.
drop source code is available also. It's like probably the newest source engine that's open source, I would imagine.
It's hard enough for me to figure out someone else's code when I have the original source. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever get
not
into
fun.
like? Do you ever question? Have you ever questioned if what you were doing was legal or not? You're probably not that worried because Valve doesn't really go after people that modify their game. I mean, they promote modifications for their games
I'm
and mods.
I'm not worried about the legality of making edits on server code at all. I'm not worried about reverse engineering. I'm pretty familiar with that stuff. Like in the US, it mostly falls under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which made like specific reverse engineering is allowed for interoperability and stuff. I think it's fine. And like Valve allows modding generally. The most sketchy thing I've done is basically not use a legit copy of some of these reverse engineering tools. But I'm not worried about it. I mean, if I publish some of this code, there could be like copyright or like potentially like patent issues, but I'm really not worried that much.
Quick question, like IDA, how much does it cost to have the full version to be able to decompile it that way?
It's closer to $10,000.
Holy shit! All right.
Which is another reason I'm recommending Ghidra. Ghidra is free, but it's created by the NSA.
Oh,
But it's really it's good, and it gives you all of the functionality. It's just like slightly different.
it also probably spies the crap out of you.
I don't know. It's the biggest downside is it's written in Java and it's kind of slow. IDA is really fast. But there's
So that's why you would use IDEA sometimes.
some people have written some cool stuff for Ghidra that I like want to convert over, but I mean I mainly use IDA because like I'm used to it and I've got all of this shit set up already. I
So
don't
all
really
these
think Ghidra's
structures,
used as a name.
they're defined for IDEA. Can you use them in
Yeah, you can use them in
Ghidra, or are they
Ghidra.
only compatible with IDEA?
You can use
Oh,
them
so
in
it's the same
Ghidra.
format.
Yeah, it's like you import them. I don't know. I think Ghidra has a better editor for structures too. All of these ones in IDA, I like wrote the structures outside of IDA and would just like reload them over and over again until they looked right. But in like Ghidra, you can actually like insert and like edit stuff, and it seems way better than what I was doing. So I want to switch over, but I haven't had a lot of things to do with it. I want to continue that video series though. I've got a couple follow-up videos to like make it better.
So,
But
Left 4 Dead hooks, I'm kind of curious how it was made, like making forwards to make it easier to use functions through source mod. Like, how was Left 4 Dead hooks made?
well, Left 4 Dead hooks.
Left 4 Downtown.
Yeah, Left 4 D hooks is just converting Left 4 Downtown to use D hooks. So it was kind of just like fine
Yeah.
for like matching stuff for all of that. Left 4 Downtown was created by a like ex Microsoft guy who knew about detouring or something, but I don't know. It was
What's detouring? Like, what is that?
Detouring is a made up term to describe the process that I'm about to mention, which is basically detouring is the idea is you patch the intro and outro of a function so that when a function in memory would be called, instead of executing that function, it executes like what they call it trampoline, I guess. It executes like a little bit of your code and jumps to a different location, and runs your code instead, and then your code decides, oh, are we going to run the original function, or are we going to return a different value or whatever.
That's
So
where the plugin stop or plugin handle comes in handy, or like
yeah,
that's
that's where you're controlling whether you call the original code or not is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, detour, like the word is supposed to mean like, hey, you're detouring like the execution of this function and having it run through your code somewhere else in memory, and you might go back to it.
Hold on. So what happened is the binary of the server is patched, so all the functions have this detour logic.
Not all of them. No, we don't detour everything because there's like a performance hit because you're like you're making their code like jump out to your function.
Like it's basically an observer pattern, the detour thing, kind of, for functions.
Maybe.
Kind of.
I don't think it's an observer
stretch,
pattern. I don't know. It's not a data oriented pattern. I don't know. I feel like observer is like a data oriented pattern. It's like you're watching data change, and this is not. Maybe you're watching the program counter change, and the program counter is set to a certain thing.
You can watch data change, but you can also watch events. Like you can listen to events, which is what we do when we do like on player jump or whatever. And this is used. Is this used through detouring also?
Sure. I mean, if you're gonna call those events, then most of our detours get turned into events. I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
A piece of a specific function was called.
Oh.
Sure. You want to call that an event? That's an event. Sure.
That's something that I can say. What the fuck is wants to play? It's a net prop I've been trying to understand, and I have not been able to figure it out. It's near the bottom on the left there of CTerra player. I was just curious if it would be easy to figure that out. That's a net prop that gets sent, and I have not been able to figure out what the fuck it is.
Maybe you said wants to play is just a wild guess. Maybe it's whether or not someone was in a team instead of spectator. I don't know.
All right, so here's how I'm gonna figure this out.
Idle or not?
We don't know very much about wants to play at all, but we do know the offset into CTerra player at which it's written, so we can try searching for that offset number. I also want to see if Git wants to play as the thing, but it looks like it's not. So we search for 15056. We can go to the disassembly view and then pick a random spot in the program. Before that, I'm going to go about here and do Alt-I. Oops, I just jumped somewhere. To find immediate value, and we're going to search for 15056. Oh, we could also do like find all instances. Oh, god damn it. I just got hosted. Hey, Kia, thanks for the host. Welcome to a big
everyone.
nerd stream where we're hacking shit. Alright, hold on.
Are we coding bigger tits on the boomer? Dude.
We're adding
It's
more
such a good
jiggle
job.
bones, yeah. Hi, Queen. Hi, Killatoy. Thanks for the host. We were trying to figure out how to not get stuck on ladders, and we found out that, you know, you can just hold spacebar today, so that's what we learned. Alright, so we've got C-tier player set wants to play, on team changed, max survivor callback, max player zombie callback,
Wait,
two
so
convars, max survivor,
What are you looking at right
Let's
now?
play
What is
zombies.
this?
handle command join
Can I answer
team.
my question?
We're looking at all the places that this
this is
number
usage.
is used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see.
I'm going to check this one because this one looks like it's going to return a boolean, right? It's going to return whether the player wants to play or not. If we look for references to that, what do we find? Player save data. Well, that's not very helpful. Update player data. I don't think that's helpful either. Sounds garbage.
I don't know. Maybe it's nothing interesting. I just haven't been able to figure it out.
Change spitter model to boomer. Dude, you should see my boomer get stuck on this ladder. Yo. Here, I'll switch back to it real quick. Look at this. Watch this. How do you think I'm supposed to... If I jump out at this angle, am I supposed to get caught on that ladder? Okay, I didn't. This angle.
Back to the ladder, are we?
Fucking...
Yeah, that one's insane.
But if you hold spacebar, it doesn't happen. If you hold spacebar, you can still get on ladders if you're holding spacebar,
Like in magnets.
but you will be less sticky in situations like this. Fucking boomers, dude. Alright. Back to nerd shit. I want to see handle command join team. Why is it using it?
Right. That's the most interesting one to me. I think Lucky might be onto something. It could be to do with like going idle.
If you try to join the team and the team is full, then
Oh.
and a various number of other things, then it will say wants to join team is true, and take over survivor bar. What is that, dude?
What?
Dude, survivors are gonna take over the bar. What is this? C-Terror player?
Dude, this is so good.
No idea what this is. Probably like a
Team
mid-event.
Desire.
Update team desired. Oh, what the hell? Yeah,
Okay.
the rabbit hole goes deeper, dude.
Is this some deprecated shit that's not even like?
Yeah.
Why would it be in the net props?
Oh, well, you go take the Valve guys out to dinner and be like, oh, hey, so, you know, what is Survivor Takeover Bar? And they'll be like, oh, let's take over this bar and I'll tell you. No, I'm kidding. No, thank you. I'm good. Player avatar get. Yeah, maybe they had like a spectate thing. Like, well, I mean, imagine in like TF2 where like,
Like you're waiting to play it.
couldn't you get into games where it's like, oh, sorry, the teams are full, or you can't join that team because the teams are imbalanced or something. I don't know. Maybe they had like a waiting feature.
They do have an auto balance.
Is the bar a HUD
or
element or
aspect
something? Blind guess.
connected to it,
That's
too. I
much
never
smarter
understood
than
it.
the things I'm saying.
Is that why you end up on the wrong team randomly and you get
Yeah,
kicked
auto
and
balances
called the
you.
team switcher? That's actually
Yeah.
intentional behavior.
Yeah, that is Valve stuff. I think
Fucking god, dude! I thought
there's
that
an
was
auto
a
balance.
bug. It's so
I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is.
It's so fucking dumb because you just get kicked and they're like, "Oh, I'm fucking team switcher."
Anyway, the one last thing I wanted to show, Lucky, is like, so init versus boss spawning, this big long thing that sets like the boss tank flow percents and stuff.
It's a large function, yeah.
It's pretty large, but if we're like really care about like what some of this does, we go through it like line by line and convert it into something readable. And so like Icy and I went through this one trying to fix some bugs in like the last stand update and like
That is crazy.
convert it into new, like name all the variables, try to figure out what would the CVAR reads actually look like, is like get float, and then C director get map
You're
arc
basically
value.
trying to interpret the function and each like variable and what they do.
Right. And turn it
Name
into
them
some real
properly.
code.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's
Icy
such
Inferno
a
is
like a
learning the ways
task, I feel like,
of the programmer.
because you're never sure, right? You're never sure if you got it right.
Yeah,
There's no
but
confirmation.
Well, you're not gonna
I
actually
don't
try to run the code.
actually I got confirmation on this one because there was a bug in this with the way they were using clamp. So clamp is a function that you pass it a number, you pass it a min and a max,
Yeah,
and it'll
yeah.
clamp it. Okay, right? So they were
Yeah, I know
using
what
a
that
preprocessor macro version of clamp, and they were trying to like clamp like random float or something. It was like this line right here. Instead of it being like first it does the random float and then saves it in this variable and then clamps it, the random float call was inside of the clamp instruction. And since it was a preprocessor macro in C, it was like expanding it out and it was calling like random float a bunch of times inside of this macro. Like
I don't understand, but sure.
okay, well, whatever. Basically, I was like, I
would've-
knew this was like something that was wrong based on the assembly, that it was doing this, and I like sent it to the guy at Valve during the last stand bug fixing. I was like, hey, I think this is wrong in this way, because I think you're using a preprocessor macro for clamp because it's doing this in
What?
the assembly. And he was like, are you sure the assembly isn't misleading? Here's the code that it actually is, and he copy pasted me the source code, and I was like, that's exactly what I expect.
Oh my god, that's
That
so
it was 100%. It was like exactly the lines that we had here. It was, and I was
Hell
like,
yeah.
I was so happy. I was like, that's a preprocessor macro, and he was like, oh, okay. So that's right. I was supposed to use capital letter clamp instead of lowercase clamp or something. I'm like, what the fuck? That sounds like a nightmare.
Oh my god, what? That's so cool.
Change tank model with the witch model. I need
Actually,
to see
like,
what it looks
you're
like for
insane.
science. Anyway, so yeah, this is fun stuff. The other one, this is one that we haven't like reversed yet, but and now you guys have replaced, like, Sir has replaced the like spawning algorithm or like the spawn order stuff entirely, right? But
With a
this,
completely different thing.
yeah, but
Yeah, I
this,
get mad when I'm like, "Hey, the next spawn is going to be this thing," and it's not that thing.
Right.
I look like an
Oh,
idiot.
wait,
It's
this is
supposed to be that
1,000.
thing.
This is 1,000. Oh my god.
this
what
isn't
is
even the
this?
right function, is it? I don't think this is. I think it's on enter ghost state, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah.
This function is 2,000 lines long. Are you serious? Like,
Well, yeah.
is
Pair
there
player
multiple
spawn
functions?
is probably
Look
like
at
when
this.
you take over a character and enter the game or whatever.
You are
Boomer
a
zombie
leader.
alert.
You are
Yeah,
a
you are a
leaker.
leaker. You found it. Client print.
Anyway,
Nice.
I don't think this one is the right one. I think it's. Isn't it on enter ghost state?
Correct. I'm pretty sure that's good.
I thought we did this. I thought we like reversed it though. Didn't we go through it?
You like you
Um,
looked at it a little bit and found some interesting stuff. Like you found where it was calling convert zombie class, I think, and then I think that was all you did.
another question is when you make extensions for servers, how does that work? Is it using the same kind of detour logic?
I mean, not necessarily. It's Left 4 Downtown is where most of the detour stuff is. I think Source Mod itself does some detours like that. They could call them like hooks though or something. Like detours is just like a special name for it.
Yeah, hooks, detour, same thing.
But
right?
in theory, when you write a server plugin or you write a Source Mod extension, you're really just supposed to, it's just like a way to write. It's the same as writing a plugin, except you get to write it in C++ and you get access to different stuff. Is like you're supposed to like write a class. You're supposed to like implement a interface essentially in C++, and like Source Mod just calls that stuff.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. But do you get access to more stuff when you make an extension as opposed to just a plugin?
Well, technically now you can access raw memory in both of them, but yeah, I don't know, kind of.
It's just easier. You have access to more like the C++ actual like data structures and all that stuff, as opposed to Source Mod, which is pretty limited.
In general, there's not a lot of reasons to write in an extension except for a plugin. It's like very purpose-built stuff. Now that we can patch memory from plugins,
When would you choose to write an extension over a plugin? Like, why would you choose to do so?
Because you have to for some reason. I don't know. But I mean now
what would be a valid reason? Or
because it's 2010 and dhooks doesn't exist, and store to address doesn't exist in source spawn. That's kind of it. I don't know. Here's or another reason is like recording helpers. I want recording helpers to be a Valve server plugin because I don't want to have to run source mod to do this type of stuff. I don't know.
Recording helpers, what is that?
Recording helpers is my Left 4 Dead 2 plugin that you can run on the client that enables all of the hidden C-bars. And it was supposed to fix third-person shoulder, but that's probably like not working right now.
I see.
But you can only write a client plugin like that in C++ or C or whatever. But
so how do you integrate that extension to a client? Like, is there without source mod?
same way source mod gets integrated. You just put it in a folder and it loads, sort of.
In the add-ons folder.
Okay.
That's right.
So Valve made some specific logic to load specific stuff in if you put.
They've had
something in a folder.
plugins capability in all of the Valve games basically. So tickrate enabler.vdf. You know, you've got like metamod.vdf that like specifies the plugin to load or something. And yeah, they have an API for writing plugins.
Plugin file tickrate enabler. So it tells what plugin to load, and that DLL, like, what does that do?
Basically, the
how is it
game is
integrated?
gonna load it. The game is gonna load it, and the game is gonna.
Yeah, but when you load a DLL, what happens?
It just gets loaded into
None
memory.
of the current code. Yeah, but none of the code actually calls any functions or instantiates any class in that DLL. So what happens?
Valve's game is going to. There's going to be some. I'm not an expert on how DLLs work, but basically there's going to be some protocol for determining where the entry point of that DLL is. And the game is going to say, oh, now that we've loaded the DLL into memory, we're going to jump to their entry point. Their entry point will execute stuff. Inside that plugin, it is inside that entry point, somewhere it's going to register a global variable to some place that says like, hello, I'm a plugin. It's probably this line right here that says extern recording helpers equals G recording helpers plugin or something. I don't know. And then once we register the plugin with the game, then our plugin, this recording helpers class, implements these are interfaces. They're abstract base classes in C++.
So
we think of them as interfaces.
Hold on. To make an extension, you need to implement an interface.
Yes.
That makes a ton of sense.
Okay.
And then it calls some specific methods in that interface, like init or load.
Like load, unload, yeah. And so you might call these events or hooks or detours. I don't know. They're just things that are going to be called in your plugin when it's at different parts of the server life cycle or whatever. So you've got stuff like client put in server and all of these things.
You've actually helped me connect so much knowledge together just in that explanation right there.
Nice. Good. So yeah,
So
somewhere
thank you
deep
for
down, Metamod is implemented as a server plugin. So Metamod implements this exact same interface that Recording Helpers implements. And then Metamod exposes that to SourceMod for some reason, instead of SourceMod being its own plugin. I don't know why. But yeah, it's like 5 layers of abstractions, and at the end of the day, you can write in SourcePawn, you know, the exact same thing. You have a on game frame, you've got on client put in server, on client disconnect, and all this stuff. But yeah, it's turtles all the way to the server. And then we detour the server to add more.
Oh wait, this interface is actually like offers a lot of functionality, like a lot of really cool.
Yeah, and like I don't know how plugins have worked in C++. There's some crazy stuff, but we also can like specify that we want to also load the like plugin, the CVAR interface. And so like the main thing this plugin does, if we go into the implementation, is like, where is it?
I haven't done C++ in quite a bit, I think 2 years. I've only done it for one class.
We have this remove dev flags function that iterates through every convar that exists and then removes the development only flag from it. And
The
that's
what
a
flag?
development only flag. It's sometimes called the launcher flag. If you look at like CVAR list outputs, everybody calls it the launcher flag. It's like one of the CVAR flags. But it's
I
actually,
don't understand why it's called that, because it doesn't make any sense.
well, it's just like, there's a bit mask somewhere that like was different flags, and it was like the same number was used for a launcher flag in some other game or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's why. It's like in some other game it was a launcher flag, but on Left 4 Dead 2 it wasn't. But they used the same tool to like dump the list, and they're like, oh, this must be launcher flag. You know, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's like the number 16 or something. We just give it a name. Anyway, but yeah, like on load, there's all this other shit to try to make third person shoulder work, but then we remove dev flags, and that's kind of all we do, is like remove the development only flag from every con command base. So all CVARs and commands.
You have to, like, to be able to do what you do, PSIM, you have to be able to work at so many levels of abstraction and understand all of them. It's kind of crazy.
Well, no, you just have to find somebody else's code at those levels and edit them. Which is
Right.
all I did. It's just after using it for a long time, eventually you understand them. But you can accomplish a lot without understanding all that much. I promise you that. It's like the guy Silvers who made like Left 4 Dead hooks, he was like, that's how he learned how all of that stuff works. He just like tried to take every line of the C++ code and write it in SourcePawn and figure out how to make it work. And yeah, I don't know.
Very cool. So Left 4, like, what's the difference between? Because you said Left 4 Dead hooks is a combination of Left 4 Downtown and D-hooks. What was the difference between D-hooks and Left 4 Downtown?
D-hooks is literally just, it's a very generic SourcePawn thing. Hold on. D-hooks is basically, it takes the detouring concept and opens it up so that plugins can like specify their own detours very quickly. It's like if a plugin can like provide, you know, can come up with the address of the function and can describe like the arguments that the function takes or whatever, D-hooks will automatically make a detour for you. In source mod terminology, they call them hooks instead of detours. I think detours was just only used by Left 4 Downtown. They called it that. It's like
Wait,
a Microsoft
so
term.
does it override the actual binary at runtime of that function?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Dude, that's
You
what
can do
that's
that?
what all this is. That's what D-hooks is. Dude, that's literally
Holy shit.
what happens when Left 4 Downtown boots up, or any of these things, is they go in, they find the function in memory by using either a signature or like a symbol or something. They find the function in memory, they copy down what the first like 12 bytes are of that function, they erase them, and they replace them with like new bytecode assembly instructions for like jump to address.
Wait. So that changes all the other offsets, so they need to adjust for all the other ones. Like,
No, but they don't copy the whole function. They just remove the first few bytes, and they replace it with a jump to somewhere else in memory. They would have to rewrite some jumps within those first few bytes, that's true. But usually those first few bytes don't have much going on. I don't know. It's a solvable thing though. People do this type of stuff. Like,
yeah, but it's really like I didn't know this was I didn't know you could do this. You could rewrite
yeah.
like. Okay.
That's yeah. No, I mean, yeah, just I mean, like, you can edit memory, right? So like if you edit memory where your executable lives, you could rewrite the instructions that are being executed. Yeah. To some extent, that's kind of the idea of like JIT compiled languages. It's like just-in-time compilation is like they're literally like emitting x86 bytecode into memory and like running it, like laying down the tracks before the train gets there, sort of thing, is the imagery you use for that. But it's like that's
like that.
they're actually like writing x86 bytecode into memory and then executing it directly, sort of thing. But this is like one time at boot we rewrite a bunch of the code.
Like the Wallace and Gromit bit where they're in the little train.
Yeah.
The tracks.
Dude, isn't that so much more funny to think of like JIT compiled like emulators as like doing that? So cool.
We're such a bunch of fucking nerds.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So I don't know. The thing that I'm like most proud of, like hack wise, is in the recording helpers to do the third person hacks. It turns out that like just patching there was like you can't use third person shoulder in versus mode basically, right? And so I needed to patch that check because they did like a has player controlled zombies check, and I wanted to just patch that out. But if I just went and tried to patch that instruction out to like, flip the conditional or anything like that,
make it false or whatever.
Yeah.
True.
If I wanted to do that, the game would crash every time it hit that extension, that
really?
instruction.
Why?
Or not, it would crash even before that. It would like stop running, and it would say
that makes no sense.
it was because I was violating Steam's DRM by editing the client code. Steam has they do what they call custom executable generation, or SEG, which is like it makes a custom everybody gets a custom version of the Left 4 Dead 2 binary, and if yours is edited at all, if yours doesn't match this like hash, then it doesn't let it run. It's like, hey, you're using a modified DLL file, and it doesn't let it run, and that's basically their DRM.
So did you go mess with that other stuff that was messing with you?
Well, so I couldn't edit the code in memory, but if I could get the game to jump to somewhere in memory that I could edit and execute code, then I could like write code there. So I had to find some way to do that, which is what I used is like virtual tables. Do you know about like virtual methods and C++ stuff?
Not really.
Well, the long and short of it is like when you've got your class structure with all this data in it, right, in memory, but you also have, in addition to everything else you've got in your class, if you have virtual methods, you have a virtual method pointer, which is a pointer that points to a table in memory that tells you where all the implementations of your virtual methods are. So a virtual method just means like a subclass could override that method with a different implementation.
Oh, okay. So I'm kind of used to how Java does it, where you can just literally override it, and it's not complicated. So virtual allows you to just override that method.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like in Java, like I think every method might be virtual by default because you can override any of them. And so like any implementation at runtime could be like somewhere else. And so it has to do a runtime lookup to figure out where the actual implementation of each method is, right?
I think you're right. If a class extends another one, you can override any of their of their methods. Yeah.
So the way that's implemented in memory though is that means that like every object, every instance of that of those objects has to have a pointer somewhere that says like, hey, the implementation of this method is here in memory, is like at this location. And since it could be like one class's implementation or the other class's implementation.
So did you mess with the virtual table?
Yeah. So I
Oh my god. Okay.
I made it so that I replaced the virtual method table pointer with one that pointed. That's the only thing I could edit. I can't edit the virtual method table itself. I could only edit the like instance pointer, because the virtual method table was still in like the DLL memory space. So I find the class in memory. I make a copy of the virtual method table entirely somewhere else in memory, rewriting all the offsets in it. And then the method that I want to actually edit, I had to copy the entire method somewhere else in memory and then patch the bytes that I want to patch. And then replace like the pointer of the virtual method table to like my pointer.
Okay, that's a lot of steps.
So basically I had to copy Valve's code, the code that I wanted to edit that I can't. I had to copy it from like an uneditable part of memory to an editable part of memory, and then patch it, and then make everything point to like my copy of the methods, like fake. I don't know. Anyway, it's a lot of steps, and that's why it like broke almost instantly when any update happens.
So wait, didn't modifying the virtual table trigger? Why didn't that trigger the DRM?
Because I don't modify the virtual table. I have a copy of the virtual table.
Oh, okay.
What I modify is the pointer to the virtual table that's on the class instance, and the class instance is going to be on the heap. It's like data memory. It's not a part of the DLL.
So with an extension, you can modify the heap like that.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, with anything you can modify the heap. Yeah, the heap is heap memory is like not. The DLL is code memory, so anything that can be like is like compile time set is in the DLL, and the virtual method table is one of those. It's compile time set. It's in the DLL. So
honestly, like I think cheat makers probably use some similar method.
Yeah,
probably. I find a lot of cheat stuff when I'm trying to figure out things and Googling. It'll take me some cheat website.
No, yeah, there's like a lot of cross pollination of like ideas.
Like cheat websites.
Ah, yes, I understand. Simple. This is my self-congratulatory. I really thought this project was cool a long time ago. So yeah, this is the code for all that is in this third-person patch. I wonder if I can figure out how it goes. We have the instance of it in memory. We have the instance of I input in memory, and we dereference the pointer to it to get the vtable pointer. We copy what's in the input vtable. Here, I'm just gonna talk to my stream for this. Well, I don't know. Do you have the volume on?
No, I want to listen to this.
Alright, we copy so this was the pointer to the vtable. We dereferenced it. Now we have a pointer to the vtable directly. We copy what's at the old vtable onto our vtable as the starting point. I guess this goes is this destination?
It's called
source?
Haxed vtable. Oh
yeah.
My god.
My Haxed vtable. We copied the vtable. We edit these functions on the vtable. We copy over like the pointer to the think function, the is third person function, to third person shoulder function. We point them to our versions of it, I believe. Or no, we're copying over the old function pointers. Then I guess we keep a copy of the original vtable here. What else do we do? We generate a copy of each of these functions, I believe. And what do we do when we generate a copy of cam is third person func? Let's find out. Okay, we start off, I have a utility to clone a function somewhere else in memory. This function probably rewrites offsets and stuff like that. I don't know. Let's see. Check a certain offset into the function for like an instruction that we want to patch, and if this instruction is not the one we expect, we bail out. That means that we can't do the patch. And then here we're writing new x86 instructions into our new function in memory.
You could generalize this to apply to any offset. This is basically what dhooks does, right?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. All of the like modern utilities for doing this type of patching is very generalized. But because I was doing this as a client plugin, I didn't have any of those
One
tools
thing, yeah.
available.
Okay.
So I was like, am I gonna write a framework for this, or am I gonna write it 4 times? Which is, I had to do like maybe only 2 patches, maybe 3 though. I don't know.
I see.
I don't really know.
I was looking at recently. I think it was the item handling in Configurable, and one of the variables was declared as a new Psychonic.
Oh yeah,
It's funny.
dude. Yeah, I mean, I was just a noob little programmer. I thought it was so funny naming variables things that they aren't.
Hilarious.
Yeah. It's silly. But Psychonic was probably helping me a ton at the time with like learning all of this
Yeah.
stuff. Oh yeah, here's the old version that like here's the same code that was just me patching the function. Is like
CG. What's CG? That's the
custom
DRM, I'm guessing, but-
custom executable generation. But yeah, that's the Steam kind of DRM thing.
Hence curse words and the rest of the code.
Yeah, right.
Alright.
But yeah, this
So you tried this function. It
this
didn't work.
this
it
should be
crashed.
these 30 lines here or so, or they're more like 20 lines, should have been all I have to do is like patch 1 or 2 things. But instead I had to do these 200 lines of like hacking shit to make it work.
So wait, hold on. What happens if you patch here? If you patch something, okay, no, never mind. Because if you patch something, you're not changing all the offsets. I was thinking like if you insert some pieces of code, then that offsets all the
Yeah.
other.
We generally try to
Code, right?
overwrite. We try to overwrite instead of like insert or delete. And one of the things that lets us do
Yeah.
that is generally we're taking longer code and turning it into shorter code. We're patching out a check or something. And in
and
that
then
case
putting in a lot of no ops.
exactly, yeah. And no ops can be of like variable instruction lengths and stuff. I mean, they can go down to just
Yeah,
1, so you can
okay.
always put in like 6 nops. But if you're cool, you try to find there's like multi-byte nop instructions you can use that would execute more quickly or something, theoretically. But yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's how everything works
Yeah.
forever.
I'm gonna try to find a
That
fork.
is very cool.
Recently.
Like, thank you so much for showing me around on this thing. It's a cool ride.
For sure.
Stuff is really fun.
Do I want to play another scrim against Simi? I think I just
Simi's
ruined
pretty
my
good.
brain for the rest of the night, possibly. I think I'm gonna have to take a break.
That's fair. I'm also down to scrim again if you wish to.
Who else is streaming? Am I streaming? Holy shit, why am I streaming? Okay. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you wanna... Dude, I haven't eaten... I
Dude,
don't
Fig,
know
the
if I
bone saw
eat
numbers
anything.
that was actually fairly easy to reverse engineer if you had the source.
Dude, somebody messaged me the other week and was like, hey, I'm trying to get my bone saw number to work, and they sent me this, but how do I bind it to a key? And they sent me like some code that said like script, and then it was a bunch of like PHP code or something, or JavaScript.
The
It was
hell?
just like raw JavaScript code, and I'm like, I don't think this is
I'm
what
pretty
you
sure
would
that doesn't go.
Yeah, just put that in your auto exec.
You would say that.
That should work.
Yeah, it's just an XOR, man. Yeah, he was trying to like run the JavaScript code in his auto exec or something. And it's pretty funny. I was like, actually, technically, you could probably run some Squirrel or something. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't think you can.
Is the
Squirrel
Valve-
code without cheats up, right?
Without
I mean-
wait commands, it might be trouble, but I kind of wonder if it's Turing complete.
I made some program that given a Steam ID or whatever, it would give you just your bonesaw number. That's cool. That's one of the first things I did when I first started writing Sourcepawn. I looked at that thing and I was like, let's figure this out.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, Fig. Of course, it was supposed to be obfuscated. It's supposed to be a challenge to like
that's
figure out how to
exactly
find your
the kind of
bonesaw
game.
number. You liked it that way? Yeah, that's the point. It's a puzzle.
You wrote it down.
I'm not.
We're talking about Canada.
I'm not
here.
gonna say it was easy.
It wasn't that hard, Fig. Like, it wasn't that difficult.
Okay. Anyway,
Dot, dot, dot.
everybody knows a different amount of everything. You know. It's cool. Like, who the fuck knows that a binary XOR is a thing? Like, there's so much like previous knowledge I could use to make that easier. Knowing what I know now is like, I know that XOR is often used as a rudimentary cryptographic function. I know that, you know, this was a security feature. I know that the code is purposefully going to be obfuscated. I know that, you know, it's unique per player. I don't know. There's all sorts of like little hints. Not to mention just knowing the language and figuring that out.